The city pulsed to a beat it hadn't felt for decades as it welcomed its new president. Intellectuals met at private political salons for open, lively discussions of topics they had only dared to mention in whispers before. Demands for greater democracy, the suspension of emergency law, an end to the ruling party's domination. The young president and his elegant wife, Asma, a Briton of Syrian origin, delighted their people by popping into a grocery store or eating dinner at a trendy restaurant, their youth a source of hope for those who wanted to believe that change was possible in what had once been an unyielding Soviet client state. That was Damascus 12 years ago. In the early months of Bashar al-Assad's presidency, a period that became known as the Damascus Spring, which also included promises of economic liberalization. By September 2001, Assad had clamped down hard. Pro-democracy activists were arrested and jailed. It was a bloodless preview of the steps the Assad regime would take to crush any hint of a threat to its existence. At the time, when the world was preoccupied with the terrorist attacks in the US, the moves drew little international notice. But the country and its economy were in a downward spiral. Syria's 40-year-old Assad state is crumbling, and the future looks very uncertain. In March 2011, that Damascus spring suddenly turned into a bitter and ugly winter. What started as peaceful demonstrations for political reform and an end to nearly 5 decades of Ba'ath Party rule developed into a bloody civil war that has shattered the lives of the Syrian people and ravaged the economy. According to various estimates, between 40 and 50,000 people have been killed, half of whom were civilians. As many as 1.2 million have been displaced within the country. In addition, tens of thousands of protesters have been imprisoned, and there have been reports of widespread torture in government prisons. International organizations have accused the government and Shabiha militias, as well as anti-government rebels and the Free Syrian Army, of severe human rights violations. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees has reported that the number of registered Syrian refugees, mostly in Turkey and Jordan, has reached over 200,000. The Syrian people were clearly influenced by protests in other Arab countries, but their own revolt is rooted in the particular systems of power and privilege that have been established over 4 decades in Syria. In 1973, the Syrian constitution was amended to give the Ba'ath Party unique status as the leader of the state and society, ushering it into all areas of public life. Its main role was to issue directives from the central government to regional representatives, mobilize the masses for political activities, and gauge the mood of the general population. Ba'athists controlled trade unions, and the military committee monitored the armed forces. Over the next 2 decades, the Ba'ath Party remained hugely influential, But real power was increasingly collected in the hands of President Assad, his family, close advisors, and the military and security services. In the eyes of many Syrians, the party embodied the corruption, nepotism, and stagnation that became so widespread. The political economy in Syria has been heavily tainted by the rural minoritarian nature of the Assad regime since 1970, the year Hafez al-Assad seized power, and the Ba'athist regime's preoccupation with securing its own survival. Over 4 decades, the ruling family has carefully crafted an intricate crony-based patronage system consisting of a number of both formal and informal networks that monopolize large sectors of the economy, but above all, has served to keep the Assad regime in place. Other than the all-powerful Assad family and the Makhloufs who are related to them, some 10 other families emerged as the new Syrian business elite. Mohammed al-Himsi is a former member of the Syrian parliament. He is currently based in Cairo.
هذه العائلة ما تركت للناس، يعني حتى الجامعات صار عندهم جامعات، حتى الإعلام صار عندهم جريدة الوطن، حتى التلفزيونات صار عندهم دنيا، حتى يعني البنوك، كل البنوك إذا ما في حصة لرامي مخلوف، منها إسلامية، منها لبنانية، منها أردنية، منها من كل دول العرب، يعني صار أمر واقع على كل الناس. كل واحد بده يدخل سوريا بده يعرف بوابة الاقتصاد في سوريا، مع أنه هذه البوابة تبدأ بالشراكة وتنتهي بالاغتصاب. كثير من شركات العالم لما بدها تعمل أي عقد بسوريا من المطار بتجي فوراً عند رامي مخلوف، لأنه عرفوا خلال السنة والسنتين الأوليات من حكم هذا الطاغية أنه ما بيصير أي عقد أو أي شيء إلا يكون رامي مخلوف.
Corruption and accountability became watchwords during last year's Arab Spring protests, where demands for democracy and freedom meshed with popular concerns that cronyism and patronage networks were keeping the man on the street out of pocket. The case of Syria is certainly not unique. Dr. Hassan Muqallad is a Lebanese economic expert and publisher of a fortnightly magazine on political and economic affairs.
في دول بالعالم ظروفها السياسية وقوانينها وحجم الفساد اللي فيها أكثر من سوريا بعشرات المرات، وما كان القطاع الاستثمار الأجنبي أو المستثمرون ما بنسميهم الأجانب هيدا عائق قدامهم، لأنه المستثمر بده الربح وبيعرف بكل بلد من بلدان محل ما القوانين واضحة بفوت عبر القوانين، محل ما القوانين ملتوية بفوت عبر مواقع النفوذ.
Ever since the coup that brought Hafez al-Assad to power in 1970, the Alawi domination of the government, the Ba'ath Party, key military positions, resources and national wealth have preserved their power. Bashar al-Assad enrolled at the Homs military academy. His promotion within the ranks was spectacular. He began as commander of an armored battalion before graduating as a colonel in 1999. Resentment over the clustering of economic opportunity in the hands of a well-connected elite, in which members of the Assad family are overrepresented, fed into the first protests against the regime and has contributed to some of the most important fluxes of the conflict. Ahmad Riyad Ghannam is a former member of the Damascus Chamber of Industry. He currently heads one of a number of parties making up the Syrian National Council in exile.
كل شيء مسيطر عليه، البنوك الخاصة مسيطر عليها، الشركات مسيطر عليها، الاستيراد مسيطر عليه، التصدير مسيطر عليه. لا شيء يخرج في سوريا، لا شيء يدخل إلى سوريا إلا أن يكون هناك حصة وريشة لهؤلاء الناس. لذلك هم لا يكتبون ولا يوثقون أوراق، يكفي كلمة واحدة في المكتب يحضروه إلى فرع أمني ليقول له أنا شريكك، فيقول له أتشرف بهذه الشراكة، وتكون المبالغ تتجاوز 100 مليون أحيانا دولار و200 مليون دولار.
The stakeholders in these networks, the government, the security apparatus, and the business elite headed by the Assad family, share the wealth of a country that has been categorized as a lower middle-income country by the World Bank. Be that as it may, Syria is one of 4 countries on the Mediterranean Sea, along with Libya, Algeria, and Egypt, to hold significant oil and gas reserves. Along with agriculture, industry and tourism, its GDP per capita expanded 80% in the 1960s, reaching a peak of 336% total growth during the 1970s. Nabil Chishakli is Secretary General of the ONDD, the Belgian Export Credit Agency, whose mission is covering credit risks related to domestic and international transactions.
Il y a plusieurs avantages, plusieurs atouts de la Syrie, et ça s'illustre par la période juste avant le déclenchement des hostilités, puisque la Syrie est arrivée quand même à avoir des taux de croissance de 4-5% qui étaient supérieurs à l'inflation et supérieurs à la croissance de la population et de la démographie. Alors, les atouts du régime syrien ou de la Syrie en tant que tel, d'une part, c'est sa position stratégique. Avec la Turquie, elle est une des charnières entre l'Europe et le Moyen-Orient, vers les pays, les riches pétromonarchies. Deuxième atout, elle a un climat qui, à certains endroits, est un climat quand même très agréable et qui permet l'agriculture. Avec, il ne faut quand même pas l'oublier, une possibilité d'entretenir des matières premières. Il y a du pétrole. Alors, c'est pas gigantesque, ce n'est pas non plus pour l'éternité, ce n'est pas d'une qualité extraordinaire, mais ça permet d'entrer une série de revenus et ça peut faciliter la transition dans la diversification économique.
الحقيقة الاقتصاد السوري في مجموعة يعني مزايا وفي نقاط ضعف مثل كل اقتصادات الدنيا، ولكن بالمقارنة مع كل اقتصادات المنطقة، خاصة المنطقة اللي ما بتعتمد على النفط بشكل أساسي، كان الاقتصاد السوري يتميز بالدرجة الأولى بعدم وجود مديونية للخارج، وهذه ميزة شبه وحيدة ربما تكون. 2، سوريا كانت بتعتمد على اكتفاء يعني شبه اكتفاء ذاتي في كل السلع الزراعية والسلع اللي بيحتاجها الإنسان، كمان يعني بالخلاف والمقارنة مع مختلف دول المنطقة. هيدي المزايا كانت تعطي طابع للاقتصاد السوري خاص غير موجود بالمنطقة وبتعطيه مكان من قوة استثنائي.
Following his father's death in June 2000, Bashar al-Assad's path to the presidency was assured by regime loyalists who removed the last remaining obstacles, such as amending the constitution to allow a 34-year-old to become head of state. He was then promoted to the rank of Field Marshal and appointed commander of the armed forces and Secretary General of the Ba'ath Party. A July 2000 referendum confirmed him as president with 97% of the vote. In his inaugural address, Bashar al-Assad promised wide-ranging reforms, including modernizing the economy, fighting corruption, and launching Syria's own democratic experience. He also pointed to the dire need for constructive criticism. It was not long before the authorities released hundreds of political prisoners and allowed the first independent newspapers for more than 3 decades to begin publishing. Nasib Jubril is a Lebanese economist, researcher and analyst. He is also a consultant in the banking sector.
حجم الاقتصاد كان ما يعادل 33 مليار و500 مليون دولار في 2005-2006 واتسع كبر إلى حجم وصل تقريبا 57 مليار دولار بال 2010 كان متوقع يصل إلى 63-64 مليار دولار بال 2011. بالنسبة لنسب النمو الحقيقي، كان معدل نسبة النمو السنوي الحقيقي في الاقتصاد السوري بين 2000 وال 2005 3.5%. نسبة النمو ارتفعت بين 2006 وال 2010 إلى معدل سنوي بلغ 4.7%. مع سنة 2010 حقق الاقتصاد السوري نمو حقيقي بلغ 5%، وتوقعات سنة 2011 كانت لنسبة نمو حقيقي تبلغ 5.5%.
The considerable role the Assad family, their inner circle and the Syrian security services exert over the economy, coupled with the absence of a free judicial system and the lack of transparency, concentrates wealth in the hands of certain classes and individuals. In turn, these classes and individuals depend upon their corrupt system for their success and fortune. Syrians without these connections are unable to improve their economic standing and suffer as a result of policies implemented by an unaccountable regime.
الأغلبية مسحوقة، لا تستطيع أن تؤمن العيش الكريم أو حتى المواد الغذائية، في حين أن كان هناك فئة متوسطة قليلة جدا لا تقاس على الإطلاق، وفئة متنفذة تعيش رغد العيش، وكانوا يتمتعون بهذا النوع من الحماية للاقتصاد، لأن كان هناك محافظة على الفساد ضمن دائرة ضيقة، ضمن دائرة المستفيدين.
Since the beginning of the Syrian insurgency in March 2011, the al-Assad government has taken steps to roll back its accelerated pace of neoliberal reform. After a decade of loosening market regulations, the state is back to governing the market in order to ensure that economic contraction and social hardships following the political upheaval and imposed foreign sanctions do not worsen. The country has reinstated much of the tangible social protection and benefits that were neglected during the Bashar al-Assad regime's accelerated transition toward a market-driven economic structure. Although the recently adopted interventionist strategies have been aimed at mitigating social unrest, these measures have done little to arrest the social disaster already in place. Political unrest and foreign sanctions imposed on Syria have aggravated economic conditions and deepened economic contraction. Dr. Eli Yashouri is a renowned Lebanese economist. He is currently Professor and Dean of the Faculty of Business Administration at Notre Dame Loisier University in Lebanon.
طبعا الثورات، شو يعني الثورات؟ يعني تعطيل كل شيء، ليس فقط تعطيل وإنما تدمير. يعني وبعدين فضلا عن العقوبات التي فرضها الغرب على سوريا، يعني كانت مثلا دول أوروبية كانت تشتري يوميا من سوريا 100,000 برميل نفط مثلا، هذا كان عم بدخلها عملات أجنبية وعملات صعبة. يعني اليوم أنا برأيي المشكلة الاقتصادية المركزية في سوريا هي مشكلة النقد السوري، الليرة السورية، لأنه ضرب النقد الوطني هو فعلا ضرب السلم الأهلي. العملة السورية طبعا تحتاج إلى احتياطات من العملات الأجنبية. إيران كانت عم ترفض، كانت عم بتقدم لسوريا الذهب وأيضا العملات الأجنبية، ولكن العقوبات على إيران تسببت لها بخسائر 50 مليار دولار سنويا. لذلك هلأ إيران ما عادت كثير عندها إمكانات أن تمد سوريا بالعملات الأجنبية. في مفشك أنه في مشكلة إنتاج هلأ بسوريا، في مشكلة عملات أجنبية، احتياطات للعملات الأجنبية، في نوع من الخطر على استقرار العملة السورية، وبالتالي على الوضع الاجتماعي الذي أساسا يعاني ما يعانيه من مشاكل ومن قتل ومن تدمير.
Although the real human costs are immeasurable following the violent escalation of the domestic crisis, economic deterioration has also exacted a high social cost, whose main burden has been carried by the middle class and the poor. It is estimated that 3 million Syrians have lost their jobs since the uprisings began. Thousands of small businesses have shut down, leading to considerable layoffs. Sanctions imposed on the banking sector have curtailed most money transactions. Both public and private entities have not been able to carry out their business transactions smoothly, and Syrian expats have faced difficulties transferring remittances to their families back home.
العقوبات المفروضة أثرت على كل مناحي الحياة في سوريا وكل مناحي الاقتصاد، وخلافا لكل الكلام اللي بيقولوه، العقوبات استهدفت بالدرجة الأولى وجع الناس.
Notwithstanding the dramatic fall in revenues from tourism, an important source of foreign currency, the hoarding of dollars and other foreign currency withdrawals have added pressure on the Syrian pound, whose value fell to Syrian pound 74 to the dollar in February 2012, a 50% drop since March 2011. This depreciation has pushed market prices up and dampened the purchasing power of the majority of Syrians. The drying up of Arab investments, which increased more than sixfold between 2002 and 2007, has exacerbated the economic squeeze.
الأزمة شكلت تداعيات على معظم القطاعات بالاقتصاد السوري، وبالتحديد على القطاع السياحي وعلى قطاع الاستثمارات الأجنبية المباشرة، لأنه القطاع السياحي بيتطلب استقرار والاستثمارات الأجنبية المباشرة بتتطلب ثقة وكمان استقرار. فمنشوف انه الحركة السياحية تراجعت بشكل حاد ابتداء من منتصف 2011. وبنشوف انه واردات السياحة كمان تراجعت من ما يوازي 14% من الناتج المحلي بال 2010 الى تقريبا 6% من الناتج المحلي بال 2011 والى تراجع اضافي بال 2012. بالنسبة للاستثمارات الأجنبية المباشرة الصافية تراجعت من مليار و500 مليون دولار بال 2010 إلى ما يقارب 600 مليون دولار بال 2011، وهي مرشحة أن تتراجع بعد أكثر بال 2012 بسبب استمرار الأزمة.
Following the drop in oil revenues, tourism, and the accompanying plunge in foreign exchange earnings, the government introduced trade and capital account restrictions and increased tariffs on imports so as to reduce the import spending except for necessity goods and raw materials whose custom duties are less than 1%. This measure is also meant to protect local industries that suffered from trade liberalization and tariff reduction during the 2000 to 2011 period. Aside from the smuggling and dumping activities of Syrian merchants, increased imports of cheaper products from China and other allies created unfair competition for local industrialists, some of whom ultimately had to close their factories and lay off many workers.
الهم هلا هو فعلا عدم التفريط بالاحتياطات من العملات الأجنبية في سوريا. فخروج الرساميل بالعملات الصعبة مثلا هذا بده يؤثر على هذه الاحتياطات، وبالتالي بيؤثر على استقرار الليرة السورية، سعر صرف الليرة السورية. يعني أنا بعتقد أنه الهم لازم ينصب هون على فعلا المحافظة على هذا الاحتياط وعلى تدبر مسألة بيع النفط السوري حتى بأسعار أقل من الأسعار العالمية من أجل يعني إيجاد الزبائن، وأيضا السعي بقدر الإمكان إلى تصدير ما يمكن تصديره، كل ذلك من أجل فعلا تكوين هذا الاحتياط الضروري اللازم لمنع شبح الجوع عن السوريين، واحد، واثنين للمحافظة على استقرار الليرة السورية.
In light of the EU sanctions on Syrian crude oil imports and the suspension of the free trade agreement with Turkey, Syria increased its trade with Russia and Iran in order to generate alternative revenues. Other alternative buyers of Syrian oil include various Asian economies that benefit from importing its oil at discounted prices. Syria has also relied on its allies for the financial support it needs to rehabilitate some of its infrastructure and restore services that were destroyed by the violence. But in order to demonstrate its independence and non-reliance on Europe and the US, and even Russia, Syria signed in November 2012 a memorandum of understanding, albeit symbolic, with North Korea. The Syrian Minister of Culture, accompanied by the country's chargé d'affaires in Pyongyang, signed a cooperation treaty on the special economic zones and free zones, as well as the field of environmental protection. They also signed an agreement of cooperation and exchanges in the field of agricultural scientific research and technology in the field of information services. Among Syria's other allies and die-hard supporters, Iran, despite its own severe economic and social problems due to international sanctions, is involved in implementing several industrial projects in Syria, including cement factories, car assembly lines, power plants, and silo construction. Iran also plans to set up a joint Iranian-Syrian bank in the future. Muhammad Barmo is a former Syrian member of parliament and is currently chairman of the political bureau of the National Development Party in exile.
الدعم أصبح اليوم معلوما للكل. يعني اليوم الموضوع أصبح مطروق وهناك وثائق وهناك أدلة وهناك شاهدية عيان. الموضوع أصبح اليوم واضح للملأ. الدعم اللوجستي والدعم المادي والدعم التسليحي وحتى الدعم البشري. اليوم الموضوع أصبح يعني معلوم لكل أطفال سوريا، ليس فقط لرجالات سوريا ورجالات الساسة. إيران أمة فارسية لها مصالح خاصة بها وترعاها وتحافظ عليها، فهي تنظر لأي موضوع في المنطقة العربية من خلال إن كان أيام حرب العراق وإن كان في الخليج العربي وإن كان اليوم في سوريا، هي تنظر لما يحقق مصالحها الشخصية كأمة فارسية.
With close ties to Iran and Lebanon, and with its physical proximity to regional powers like Egypt and Turkey, Syria is at the heart of a complex set of relations in the Middle East. What many observers had predicted has in fact materialized. The Syrian conflict has evolved into a proxy battle between Saudi-supported Sunnis and the pro-Iranian Shiite Alawi faction. Since the uprising, the Syrian government has frequently used Shabiha militiamen to break up protests and enforce law in restive neighborhoods. These are groups of unofficial enforcers for the regime and made up of gunmen and semi-criminal gangs loyal to the president. This group has been arrested by the Free Syrian Army. It has now been established that Iranian fighters are also participating in the fighting alongside the Shabiha and the Syrian army.
يوجد مستشارين أمنيين إيرانيين. هناك طابق في جهاز أمن الدولة ممنوع لأي شخص كان أن يدخل إليه. هذا الطابق مخصص لضباط أمن إيرانيين يعملون بمجالات الاتصالات والإنترنت والتجسس. طبعا هناك قناصة إيرانيين وقناصة من حزب الله. طبعا هناك شبيحة يأتون من ميليشيات مقتدى الصدر ومن ميليشيات حزب الله. هناك عدة روايات مشاهدة ومعلومة عن هكذا انتهاكات وهكذا عمليات.
Although much of the world still lives today, as always, under dictatorship, the behavior of these regimes and of their leaders often appears irrational and mysterious. The Iran-Syria alliance grew out of common cause and common enemies. Since Iran's 1979 revolution, the two regional powerhouses have pooled political leverage and military resources to enhance their position, build a network of surrogate militias, and frustrate the plans of opponents. The two regimes share common traits. They are both authoritarian and defiantly independent, even at a political or economic cost. Iran is predominantly Shiite, and although Syria is predominantly Sunni Muslim, its ruling family is Alawite, a Shiite sect. At the same time, they are odd political bedfellows. Syria's Ba'athist ideology is strictly secular and socialist. Iran's ideology is rigidly religious and, in principle, opposed to atheist communism and its offshoots. Yet their common strategic goals have held the alliance together for 3 decades, despite repeated attempts to rend them apart. Together, they financed and supported Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and an array of radical Palestinian groups. All reject peace, and together they have inflicted repeated setbacks on numerous peace initiatives. The alliance also reflects a common need. Together, the regimes stand a better chance at survival, without having to accommodate either domestic or foreign demands for change, than they would without each other. Together, they also stand a better chance of achieving their long-term goals. Syria wants to regain the strategic Golan Heights lost to Israel in the 1967 war and keep its veto power over Lebanese politics. Iran wants to be the preeminent regional player in the Persian Gulf and ensure its allies rule in Iraq. Both also want to protect Arab interests, in the case of Damascus, and Islamic interests in the case of Iran, throughout the region. Under the late Syrian leader Hafez al-Assad, Syria's client-patron relationship with the Soviet Union developed into one of the most enduring strategic partnerships in the Middle East, one that survived the collapse of the Soviet Union and coming to power of Bashar al-Assad in 2000. Russia's support for the Syrian regime in the face of anti-government uprising in Syria and intense pressure from Western and Gulf Arab countries is motivated by extensive trade and military interests that go back to the Soviet era. Russian officials may not think the world of President Bashar al-Assad and his handling of the crisis, but they will not give up easily on their most loyal Arab ally. Russian emergency aid continues to flow into Syria, and Syrian officials have also pleaded with Russia for financial loans and supplies of oil products, a sign that the global fallout from President Assad's crackdown on the rebellion is squeezing the regime. In October 2012, Turkish fighter jets intercepted a Syrian airplane they said was carrying Russian ammunition and military equipment destined for the Syrian Defense Ministry. Russia said the action endangered the lives of Russian citizens aboard the aircraft, and Syria branded the incident piracy.
طلب من السيد الأردوغان وبلهجة لا تخلو من التحدي فليظهر تلك الذخائر والأسلحة التي ادعى بأنها موجودة والتي قال بأنهم قد حصلوا عليها. كما تعلمين بأن هناك أحيانا بعض التجهيزات الإلكترونية والميكانيكية العادية قد يكون لها استخدام مني واستخدام عسكري. فبالتالي يعني لا يمكن، نأمل أن لا تقوم الحكومة التركية بالاستمرار في الخداع والغوص في هذا الموضوع بأن تظهر بعض التجهيزات والمعدات البسيطة التي لها استخدام مدني على أنها ذات استخدام عسكري.
In their continuing efforts to shield the Syrian regime from UN sanctions, both Russia and China have used their powers of veto a number of times to block Security Council resolutions related to the Syrian crisis.
ولا الحكومة الروسية ولا الحكومة الصينية هم يخافون على الشعب السوري، أو هم من أولوياتهم الحفاظ على الدم السوري. الموضوع هو لعبة مصالح ولعبة وتقسيم كيكة. هناك كعكة يودون أن يتقاسموها، والخلاف على كيفية وآلية تقاسمها.
Once one of the most solid states in the Middle East and a key pivot of the regional power structure, Syria is now facing wholesale destruction. The consequences of the unfolding drama are likely to be disastrous for Syria's territorial integrity, for the well-being of its population, for regional peace, and for the interests of external powers deeply involved in the crisis. The most immediate danger is that the fighting in Syria, together with the current severe pressure being put on Syria's Iranian ally, will provide a spark for a wider conflagration from which no one will be immune. As the tension focuses on the violence around the nation and the international disputes over what to do about it, the ailing economy and its paralyzed private sector are a less obtrusive but increasingly potent threat to both the welfare of ordinary Syrians and potentially the prospects of President Bashar al-Assad's regime.
الحرب بمعنى الدمار يعني هي عكس الاقتصاد، عكس النمو، والحرب كحرب تعيق الاقتصاد وتعيق النمو. يعني هناك قضايا طفيلية بتنشأ خلال الحرب، يعني هناك دفء من المال بيجي نتيجة التسلح، بيجي نتيجة التدخل الخارجي، هيدا بيكون للاستهلاك الحربي وليس لإقامة بنى إنتاجية أو للنمو. اليوم سوريا عم تمرق بظروف حرب حقيقية، كل الدول اللي مرقت بحروب سواء أهلية أو باجتياحات بتعرفها إنه توقف عصب الاقتصاد.
The effects of the civil war have been devastating for the Syrian economy. The unending crisis is deepening with fuel shortages, a plunging currency, and complaints from government employees over unpaid salaries. The agricultural industry is collapsing, with farmers unable to plant crops in the face of a deadly security crackdown and crippling fertilizer shortages. Road transport has been severely disrupted due to the fighting and the closure of border posts between Syria and Turkey, which is one of Syria's most important trade partners. Some of these checkpoints are now under the control of the Free Syrian Army. This has in turn disrupted the distribution of basic goods and foodstuffs to an already impoverished population, who now have to face staggering price rises for the most basic foods.
حجر الزاوية بالاقتصاد بيوقف، بصير الاقتصاد هو مبني لتأمين الحاجات الأساسية والضرورية لاستمرار المواطن، وليس يعني، وهذا بيعكس حاله طبعا على إنتاج الكهرباء، على إنتاج النفط، على الري. يعني احنا اليوم كل يوم عم نشوف عدد الخسائر البشرية الهائلة اللي عم نسمع عنها والمؤسفة، ولكن كل يوم نسمع تفجير أنبوب نفط، ضرب محطة كهرباء، الدمار نفسه اللي عم بيصير بالمساكن. يعني اليوم سوريا فيها، ما في إحصاءات دقيقة، ولكن عشرات آلاف المساكن اللي هدمت وانضربت. لو اليوم الصبح بتوقف الحرب، هناك سنوات طويلة تحتاجها سوريا من إعادة توظيفها ترجع للوضعية اللي كانت فيها عشية الأحداث. فحكما الحرب أثرت بمعنى أنه مش بس وقفت كل المسار اللي كان ماشي اقتصادي، بل يعني ضربت البنية الإنسان الأساسية كقوة إنتاج أساسية للإنسان، إضافة للبنية التحتية الضرورية لأي اقتصاد يمشي.
As Syria's uprising descends into an increasingly bloody civil war, the number of refugees fleeing the fighting has skyrocketed. Though they might escape the civil war when they cross the border, refugees face a host of new challenges. Syria's Arab neighbors, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq, are where most refugees find themselves in hastily put together camps or with families struggling to support themselves. Yet the rapidly expanding crisis poses problems not only for refugees. The host states themselves are wary of the social, economic, and political pressures their new guests have brought. Among the estimated 1.2 million internally displaced, many have had to move not only to escape the conflict, but also the dire economic situation they have to face. Even in places where the violence has subsided, people are not confident enough to open their shops. In some regions, where there are still some functioning markets or stores, food prices have increased by 400%. On the northern edge of this war-torn country, barely 100 meters from the Turkish border, thousands of desperate Syrians sleep in the dirt, hidden among ancient olive groves. These people have lost everything. Resources, shelter, and work are all scarce for the refugees, and the international community has been slow to respond. Adib Shishekli is a successful Syrian businessman in exile who has been active in the humanitarian field since the beginning of the crisis.
سوريا اليوم بحاجة لمساعدة، ولكن للأسف الشديد لا مجيب. فقدت سوريا أكثر من 30,000. أكثر من 3 مليون بحاجة لمساعدة ومهجر، وأكثر من 200,000 معتقل، وأكثر من 300,000 لاجئ. نحن بحاجة بالمساعدة الدولية، ولكن لا أتوقع أي مساعدة دولية بالقريب العاجل.
As for those Syrians who have stayed behind, the effects of international sanctions on the economy are making themselves felt more and more acutely. The banking sector and the oil industry have suffered heavily. The Syrian currency has lost over 60% of its value and prices have soared. Oil production as well as distribution networks have been disrupted, causing shortages in gasoline and diesel fuel at gas stations throughout Damascus and other cities. The quality of the fuel may be low, but this is the least of these drivers' worries. Day-to-day commerce has suffered heavily due to price rises.
الشيء طبيعي، ظاهرة طبيعية أنه بس بلدان تتعرض لحروب بهذه الطريقة القاسية ويكون الأفق بعده مجهول، بمعنى بعد الصراع ما اتفقوا المتقاتلين يقعدوا على طاولة حوار. كل الناس اللي بيكون عندها سواء أموال يعني فائضة كودائع أو أموال احتياط لحاجتها بتحاول تهربها من البلد، خاصة بظل يعني فلتان وفوضى والى اخره. ولكن هيدا الأموال يعني إذا بنرجع لقبل الأحداث، قديش كان القطاع الخاص المصرفي بسوريا عم يدخل كعامل استثماري توظيفي فعلا ببنى الاقتصاد؟ كان محدود جدا.
هلا في توقف عن العمل. تعرف بهالامور هاي في مرحلتين، في مرحله بسموها الشت داون، يعني التوقف عن العمل والمحافظه على كل الاصول والموجودات والى اخره بانتظار ايام افضل. والمرحله التي تلي عاده الشت داون هي الاكزيت يعني التصفيه والخروج النهائي من القطاع او من النشاط الاقتصادي. فهلا هن بمرحله كل الاستثمارات والمستثمرين داخل سوريا هن اليوم عم بيقتربوا من مرحله الشت داون.
One thing is for sure, the longer the Syrian crisis persists, the worse the outcomes will be. Sectarian rifts could deepen, leading the way to a full-blown civil war and the country sliding into a failed state status.
هلا كل شيء يتوقف على أمد الثورة هناك والأحداث هناك. إذا ما انتهت هذه الأحداث يعني بسرعة، أعتقد أنه المسألة منها هالقد دراماتيكي. يمكن يعني تدبر بضعة مليارات من الدولارات من أجل إعادة أعمار سوريا، لكن الأهم أن نرى هذه الأحداث تنتهي بأسرع وقت ممكن. أما إذا طال أمدها عندئذ يعني عملية إعادة أعمار سوريا تصبح أكثر يعني تعقيدا، وتصبح أكثر كلفة، وتصبح أكثر يعني أصعب تحقيقا، لأنه ما تنسى اليوم أنه العالم كله بأزمة مالية، العالم كله بأزمة مالية، حتى المؤسسات المالية الكبرى العالمية بأزمة مالية.
Whichever political group or faction comes to power should the regime of Bashar al-Assad fall, will face the gigantic task of reconstructing the country, practically from the ground up.
أنا ما بشوف إنه في فريق بيربح، أنا بشوف إنه في تسوية رح تنعمل، ولكن هذه التسوية يعني هي رح تحدد العامل الاقتصادي، رح يكون واحد من شروطها وواحد من أسباب نجاحها أو فشلها.
The scale of the destruction and human loss in Syria is so great that some economists have compared the situation there to that of certain European countries at the end of the Second World War. Britain, France, Germany, Poland and Belgium lay in ruins after 5 years of some of the bloodiest and most devastating war in human history. The initiative known as the Marshall Plan, named after US Secretary of State George Marshall, came into operation in April 1948 and lasted for 4 years. $13 billion in aid was provided in order to rebuild the devastated countries, remove trade barriers, and modernize industry.
خطة مارشال كل الدول اللي بتشهد أحداث تدميرية، أحداث كبيرة، ثورات كبيرة يطول أمدها، هذه كلها بعتقد المجتمع الدولي هو بياخد على عاتقه يعني مد هذه الدول بالرساميل الضرورية لإعادة أعمارها. ولكن مثل ما قلنا اليوم الوضع الدولي لا يسمح فعلا بتوفير رساميل كبيرة لدول تعاني من هكذا أحداث.
الاعتماد على طاقات السوريين سيكون محوري بالإعمار، ما بيقدروا يتكلوا على المساعدات الخارجية ويناموا على حرير. عم أقول دور الدولة مفتاح، بمعنى أنه الدولة هي المسؤولة عن إعادة إعمار سوريا، بمعنى أن القطاعات الإنتاجية السورية الأساسية منها الصناعة والزراعة لا يكون لها محل الصدارة والأولوية، أول شيء كقطاعين قائدين قاطرة للقطاعات الثانية. 2 دورهم الأساسي هن بالاكتفاء بسوريا.
Syria's immediate neighbor has also experienced a devastating civil war lasting from 1975 to 1990. Following a series of conferences in Paris, the international community granted billions of dollars of aid in a national recovery, reconstruction and development program. Rafiq Hariri, who headed 5 Lebanese cabinets from 1992 to 2004, dominated the country's post-war political and business life and is widely credited with the reconstruction of Beirut after the civil war.
باريس 1 2 3 اجوا يعني مثل مراهم لازمات حصلت قبل. عم بحكي انا بمعنى انه اي نظام بده يجي بده يعتمد انه دور الدوله رح يكون محوري بالاعمار.
The end point of Syria's escalating conflict is very difficult to foretell, but it is certain that sooner or later circumstances will force some sort of change. The transition from dictatorship to democracy has never been easy, and if Syria were to confront this possibility in the future, there may well be lessons to be learned from past European experience. The cases of Spain, Portugal and Greece offer interesting parallels with the Syrian regime. All 3 have gone through a prolonged period of authoritarian and oppressive rule by regimes that were also based on close family ties. In all 3 cases, the transition to democracy did take place, albeit with different degrees of success. They are now fully integrated members of the European Union.
Le cas espagnol est intéressant parce que lorsque Franco meurt, on a une transition démocratique qui s'est déroulée sur plusieurs années. Un pays était fermé aux échanges extérieurs, commence à s'ouvrir graduellement. Les réformes économiques se font à ce moment-là du type de ce qui avait été envisagé par le régime syrien, c'est-à-dire une ouverture. Troisième élément, on se rapproche de l'Europe. Et là, l'Europe a un rôle essentiel puisqu'elle permet de stabiliser le processus. Elle permet d'ancrer le pays dans la démocratie, tant et si bien qu'il y a eu un coup d'État par la suite en Espagne qui a été immédiatement, qui a fait flop. Et ça, je pense que pour la Syrie, c'est vraiment l'enjeu, c'est d'arriver à une transition démocratique où l'opposition accepte d'utiliser encore une partie des ressources humaines de l'ancien régime pour aller vers une transition démocratique qui s'appuie également sur une relation plutôt avec l'Occident qu'avec les pays, je dirais, plus ancestraux ou plus rigoureux sur le plan religieux.
Syria is at the heart of what was once known as the Levant during Ottoman rule of the Middle East, a vast region which encompassed what is today Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Iraq, and the Palestinian territories. The entire area has been a patchwork of sectarian and ethnic enclaves that has seen bouts of religiously motivated violence many times before. The nation-state is also still a relatively recent invention in this part of the world. Cross-border loyalties to the sect and the tribe often promote fear of the state. Should the current regime eventually collapse, crumble, or withdraw, the celebrations of the opposition, both peaceful and armed, will quickly be followed by a series of daunting challenges. In fact, Syria is likely to face the greatest transitional dilemmas of the Arab Spring.